Our next storyteller is an associate professor of education at LaSalle University and an instructor at Harvard. She received her PhD in special education from UC Berkeley and San Francisco State, and she is happily settled right here in our town of Lexington. Please welcome Liz Hartmann.
All right. I immediately knew something was wrong when they showed me my future classroom. It was dark and empty. It looked more like a waiting room than a place where you'd educate kids. Besides a few desks, a bookshelf, a small used couch in the corner, there were none of the things that you would expect to see, like books or manipulatives or teaching materials. On a table in the corner, there were two lonely plastic bins, one filled with nuts and bolts, and the other filled with pegs and pegboards. My assigned mentor teacher told me that these were the teaching materials for my kids, who were, in her words, very, very low. Oh man, I thought, this is not good. She went on to warn me that one of my students, Clayton, was especially low because of his severe behavioral and intellectual impairments. He preferred to be left alone, she said, but I should try my hardest to get him off the couch, and one day he should put the nut on the bolt, and then the next day he should take all the nuts off the bolts. Same with the pegs and the pegboards. One day, peg in board, next day, peg out of board. If Clayton could maintain this simple skill, he might get a job in a factory one day. I tried to put on a brave face and hide my disappointment, but my heart broke. How could this teacher have such low expectations for a student? And how could this woman be my mentor and a teacher at a school for the blind? In the months preceding this interaction, I had decided to move from Boston to San Francisco. And my life in Boston was very comfortable. I had great friends, I had a wonderful family, and I was living in a city I absolutely loved. I remember my friend Heidi saying, "You cannot leave Boston. You are literally the biggest masshole I know." And she was kind of right. I was a Red Sox hat wearing, Dunkin' Donuts drinking local. But I had just finished my graduate degree in teaching, and I craved a new challenge. So when I heard that there was a school for the blind in California that was looking for a teacher for their teenagers, my dream job, I knew I had to give it a shot and go west. On the first day of school, Clayton, here he is, sauntered into my classroom with a big smile on his face. He was a stocky teenager, and he loved alternative music and a good joke. At first, he hid out on the couch and was very, very anxious that I would make him do anything. But by the end of the first month, I found the secret to unlock teaching him. All he needed was a consistent routine, asking him to help me versus telling him what to do, and a once-a-week trip to McDonald's to get French fries. And it turns out he wasn't the only one who was anxious. I struggled to get my life in San Francisco settled, to find new friends, to find an apartment, to find out what one does on the weekend when you don't have easy access to local Red Sox games on TV. I remember going to school and every Monday being relieved to see Clayton come through that door. He would come into my classroom and say, "Hi, Liz, are we going to McDonald's?" "Sure, Clayton, as long as you can help me out in class today." "Okay," he'd reply with glee. And he did help me out in class quite a lot. He helped me make snack, run morning meeting. He even helped me pick out a lot of our field trip locations, which were often near McDonald's. There was a lot of learning, and there was a lot of joy. Our classroom was a refuge from the long stares and low expectations of other teachers in the school, unfortunately. They haunted us as we'd walk around campus. One teacher told me with certainty that Clayton wasn't allowed a cane or lessons on how to use it because he might hit us with it. How could a teen with no usable vision not have a cane so that he could get around independently? I ignored her, and I gave him a cane anyways, and he never hit me. A phys ed teacher told me that Clayton wasn't allowed in the pool, his favorite place to be on campus, because another teacher thought he had once peed in the pool. Who hasn't peed in that pool, I thought. I went swimming in the pool with him, right next to him, and I peed in a silent protest. An especially nosy teacher pulled me aside to say I was doing wonderful work. Finally, I thought, she sees his potential. I'm starting to change minds here. But then, in the next breath, she told me that if I kept working hard, next year I might get a better class. Better class? What she really meant was a class without Clayton. I remember thinking what I really need are some better colleagues. You might be getting the sense that I kind of liked the fight. It's true, I did. It was me and Clayton against these uninformed naysayers, good guys versus bad guys, Red Sox versus Yankees. It was so clear-cut to me that we were right and they were all wrong. Here we are at a school for children with visual impairments and blindness, and Clayton was very much blind, and he was progressing and learning. And 1 year he went from anxious, couch surfing, nuts and bolts, pegs and pegboards, to a motivated student who could help me run my classroom bake sale, using the proceeds, of course, to independently buy French fries at McDonald's. How dare they deny him the education he deserved? In late spring, my first year teaching, an administrator told me that she wanted to send Clayton back to his local school district because he didn't have a future at the school. I began to see what was going on with different eyes. I wasn't changing minds, and I probably would never. My work, my students, our progress, it didn't matter. I was resigned to find another job with like-minded professionals who got me, respected me. They'd understand what I was doing. But if I'm honest, I was also afraid. I was fighting this battle quietly in my head because I was deeply scared to speak up for what I knew what was right. On the last day of school, I received this email from Clayton's mom. I'm going to read it to you. She wrote, "Liz, I can't thank you enough for all you've done for Clayton. This is his best year ever, and it's because of you. Unlike all the other so-called professionals, you looked beyond the issues and was able to see Clayton's potential. The last few years have been so discouraging. It was as though they had given up on Clayton. You know how it was when you got there. No cane, no swimming, isolation. I don't have to explain. Everyone pretty much stayed away from him. Well, you and Clayton showed them what he's capable of. Thank you for having faith in him, encouraging him, your patience. I thank you for being able to see that Clayton is just like other kids. Sincerely, Penny." For the next 5 years, I kept a printout of this email in my wallet as a reminder that I can create classrooms where kids like Clayton find they belong. And in that classroom with Clayton, I found where I belonged. Thank you.